So we're sure you've seen what's going on with the National Guard in Chicago, Florida, becoming the first state to get rid of vaccine mandates for school children. And of course, Trump attending the US Open as Rolex's guest, despite a massive 39% tariff on Swiss products.
But there are so many political updates swirling around that you might have missed, so it's time for another edition of Trump Dates. But before we get into it, we've done some polling, and apparently there are some people that are confused about what Trump Dates stands for. It's Trump plus updates.
Trump updates.
Trump dates. We invented it. That's what it stands for. This is our official disclaimer explaining it.
We thought it was so obvious, but then no one in our lives knew what it meant.
Nope.
So we're clarifying. So our first Trump date, Trump just launched a program to require bonds of up to $15,000 for some tourist and business visas from countries that commonly have visitors that overstay their visas.
This went into effect a couple of weeks ago, and basically these visitors would have to pay either $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000 to get this visa.
And they only get that money back if they leave before or like when their visa expires. But if they overstay the visa, that money is lost. It goes to the US government.
And this is a pilot program, so the government is just kind of testing it out for a year. But strangely, as of now, it only applies to 2 countries. So people coming from Malawi and Zambia, so countries in Africa. But the government can add countries to the program whenever it wants. So we'll be monitoring that list.
And this is part of Trump's initiative to discourage anybody from coming to the US, including travelers. Travel has already fallen 3% just since he took office. That's crazy. He's also imposing a $250 visa integrity fee on travelers from countries that require visas, which is so many, just to name a few: Mexico, Argentina, India, Brazil, China.
And that fee is on top of the initial visa fee. So together that would bring the total cost of this visa up to $442, which is crazy. It's one of the highest visitor fees in the world, and it goes into effect October 1st.
And I understand that his whole prerogative is being anti-immigrant, but I do think it's weird to discourage anyone from even traveling to the US, because he's also all about building up American businesses. So that's cutting out a huge source of revenue. There's so many industries that rely on tourists.
No, it is weird. Like, this goes back to the point that we made a couple episodes ago about him banning like international students from American universities. It is clear that this administration doesn't want people from certain countries to come to the US. Like, if you look at this list of where the visa fee applies, it doesn't apply to most European countries, Israel, and even Qatar, which are places that Trump is friendly with. So Trump passed an executive order last week to redesign all the government websites and digital tools to be as beautiful and pleasant as an Apple store. So the order is called Improving Our Nation Through Better Design.
We spent 20 minutes trying to understand if he meant the App Store on our phones or like the Apple retail store. And apparently he means the physical Apple Store, which makes no sense because it's about digital websites. Sorry, it was just like such a roller coaster.
It really got to Ren. She had a lot to say.
I don't understand. But apparently a lot of Doge main players are coming back to help with this website redesign. And they're joining one of the founders of Airbnb, who's also spearheading.
Yeah, so Joe Gebbia said, "I will do my best to make the US the most beautiful and usable country in the digital world." And he'll be joined by, do you remember that guy that like worked at Doge that was 19 years old and everyone was like, why is a 19-year-old working for the government? So he's helping lead this project as well. And the executive order and the website is pretty vague on the details of what exactly this redesign would entail, but they're focusing on revamping the IRS, green card applications, and passport renewals.
It says seeking engineers and designers to fix the most broken user experience on Earth. And they say down the road, they could venture into designing physical spaces and buildings as well. And then the Apple Store comparison would make sense. So you might have heard the rumor that the US is at war with Venezuela after the military killed 11 people in a strike on a Venezuelan ship last week that was allegedly carrying illegal narcotics.
And the Pentagon hasn't released specifics about the attack, like what drugs were on board, how many drugs, how the strike was carried out. But experts are saying that killing people in international waters doesn't only violate international law and maritime law, but it's actually a declaration of war.
And the US has deployed 7 warships to the Southern Caribbean in recent weeks, plus a nuclear-powered submarine. And together it's all carrying 4,500 sailors and Marines, so that's a lot. And it's all part of Trump's promise to crack down on cartels. And Rubio said that instead of intercepting the ship on the president's orders, we blew it up and it'll happen again.
And the U.S. is claiming that this crew on the ship was made up of gang members from the Tren de Aragua, which is that Venezuelan gang we've all heard of. And they haven't shared any proof. We kind of just have to take their word on it, which is worrisome because this administration has deported and detained so many people that they've claimed are a part of this gang, only for us to later find out that they're actually not. But this isn't just imprisoning or detaining people, it's literally killing them without due process, so the stakes are so high.
Well, it might not even be legal because Congress hasn't authorized armed conflict against cartels and drug traffickers, which typically they would have to do. Plus, drug trafficking isn't considered a capital offense.
So Trump renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War will reportedly cost the government hundreds of millions of dollars. So officials say that they'll need to change Defense Department seals on more than 700,000 facilities in 40 countries and, of course, all 50 states, which is just such a waste of time and taxpayer money.
Yeah, I never thought I'd miss Doge, but here we are, because so many things will have to change. It's crazy. Everything from letterhead for 6 military branches and dozens of agencies, down to little things like embossed napkins in the dining hall, or like jackets that officials wear, or keychains in the Pentagon store.
And obviously, this is all a part of Trump's obsession with projecting strength and just glorifying all the wars that the U.S. has won. He said in a press conference, "We won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke. And so we changed the name to DOD. So we're going Department of War."
DOW. Well, Pete Hegseth wasted no time in changing his social media profile to say Secretary of War.
Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. Violent effect, not politically correct. We're going to raise up warriors, not just defenders.
Violent effect?
I don't know what he's saying.
It's just so crazy because remember, during the last election, Trump tried to paint Kamala as this warmonger and we're not safe if she's president because she'll get us into wars. And he's the candidate of peace. And now he's literally changing it to the Department of War. Trump is considering banning trans people from being able to own guns. Apparently, senior Justice Department officials have held multiple meetings looking into how they could do this in the past couple weeks. And this is, of course, following the recent Minneapolis school shooting that was carried out by a trans person.
And it looks like the way that they kind of go about doing this is by declaring that people who are transgender are mentally ill and can lose their Second Amendment rights to possess firearms, according to a senior justice official.
And of course, our hearts break and go out to the families of the kids that lost their lives in the Minneapolis school shooting. But the crazy thing about what Trump is now trying to do is that the vast majority of shootings in the U.S. have no connection to transgender people. So in the past 12 years of mass shootings, only 5 shooters were transgender out of almost 6,000 of them. So that's 0.08%. That's not even 0.1%. Meanwhile, 98% of mass shootings are committed by men. So should being a man be declared as being mentally ill and they should be unfit from guns?
No, this framework is flawed in so many ways. It would also create so many legal challenges since obviously millions of Americans suffer from mental illness. They take medication, but they won't be, barred from buying firearms. Why not? It's no surprise that the only time Republicans would ever want to restrict gun rights is targeted at this minority whose rights this administration has slowly started to erode.
Exactly. So GLAAD said instead of actual solutions, the administration is again choosing to scapegoat and target a small and vulnerable population. Trump just canceled Biden's plan to require airlines to compensate passengers with cash, meals, and lodging for flight disruptions, to which former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg posted, "Our billionaire president put an airline lobbyist in charge of the Department of Transportation, so no, this is not a surprise."
Yeah, it's not a good look for Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who used to be a lobbyist for the group that actually endorsed this reversal. It's called Airlines for America and literally represents Delta, United, American, every major airline. So this isn't shocking because obviously airlines don't want to pay all of these passengers.
I mean, no duh. The rule would have required airlines to pay up to $300 for domestic delays of up to 6 hours and up to $775 for delays lasting 9 hours. Plus, they have to cover lodging and meals if the delay is due to an airline system outage or mechanical failure.
And we literally reported on this in our holiday episode last year, so that's how recent this compensation went into effect. It was Buttigieg's biggest achievement and was such a big win for flyers, especially since it followed all those massive flight cancellations over the summer. So Trump's been hosting a lot of dinners at the White House to try and show off his recently renovated Rose Garden, which looks identical to Mar-a-Lago. He hosted the biggest tech leaders in the world like Tim Cook, Sam Altman, and Mark Zuckerberg last week, but unfortunately they were reined in and the dinner had to take place inside.
And in classic Trump fashion, they all went around and personally thanked him one by one. I don't understand how this happens at every meeting he attends.
Thank you for for incredible leadership, including getting this group together.
Thank you, Bill. That was very nice.
And thank you for being such a pro-business, pro-innovation president. It's a very refreshing change.
It's incredible to be among everyone here, particularly you and the First Lady.
No, seriously, it's so lame. It looks like they were all thanking him for like his investment in AI and apparently promoting chip manufacturing in the US, which has been getting a lot of reporting. Tim Cook announced at the dinner that he was investing $600 billion into the US. And of course, glaringly absent was Elon Musk.
The Broverse continues. But earlier in the day, several of the tech execs attended the White House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence Education Roundtable, which was hosted by Melania. So she had a lot of standout quotes.
The robots are here. Our future is no longer science fiction. During this primitive stage, it is our duty to treat AI as we would our own children, empowering, but with watchful guidance.
She is literally so random. Like, I feel like she's never in DC. She never really talks about anything, but she clearly feels very strongly about the dangers of AI.
Well, Trump finally did make it outside the following night and hosted what he's calling the Rose Garden Club, which is basically just a dinner party for Republicans. And in case you missed it, he paved the Rose Garden in the biggest renovation by any president ever. So now it has this big limestone patio, and he brought in country club style chairs and tables and yellow striped umbrellas that are actually exact replicas of the ones at Mar-a-Lago.
Quote, we call it the Rose Garden Club, and it's a club for senators, for congresspeople, and for people in Washington, and frankly, people that can bring peace and success to our country. It reminds me of like the executive branch that was that like membership club that John Jr. started. Like, why is this family obsessed with members only clubs?
Well, he's also obsessed with Mar-a-Lago because he's also gilded the Oval Office. So there's just like gold plating everywhere, and that looks exactly like Mar-a-Lago. There's just gold plated walls everywhere. And then he's also building a $200 million ballroom. And just look at the mock-ups. Like, this is the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. Like, it's exactly the same.
And oh my God, outlets have been reporting that these moldings look really similar to accents you can buy on Home Depot for $30. Like, they're actually reporting on how this could be from Home Depot, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did. As for the ballroom, construction is set to begin this month.
Well, with all these big renovations, I hope he remembers he's only here for 4 years.